Mm-hmm.
There we go. Hello.
Hello. I'm Svenny and I am a demi-woman, but between non-binary and trans woman. My pronouns are she, they. Sort of. I mean, there were different levels of queerness coming out, and me being like, as a cis straight man, going from there to being bi was basically I got blackout drunk and suddenly I told all of my friends. I had no plans on telling anybody. I was gonna keep it to myself forever and maybe go to some place far away from Iceland at some
Mm.
point, have sex in a bar, and then never do it again. That was the plan. But then suddenly I had told everybody. So now it was no longer. Plans changed. And then later with the gender identity stuff, it was 1 year into COVID and I had to like quit work because of mental health for just a little bit, like take sick leave basically. During that time, I was doing all of the meditation and yoga like every day. That was like my full-time job, just working on myself. And at that point, I realized that all of these thoughts were kind of real and not made up or
Mm.
something that I've had like my whole life, but I just like never took them seriously. Then I told I think I started by telling my friends, and that was just chill. And then I told my parents. They took some time to understand because they didn't know what non-binary was when I told them. They were just like,
Mm.
what? And they were really worried because of how mental health in the trans community is not great. So they were really
Mm.
worried because of that and because of the high suicide rate for trans people. So they were just like, they were not being like transphobic. They were just being really worried
Mm.
because of how I identify how that might impact my mental health overall. But then, they understood everything and it got way better. It was just like a little bit of a shock for them at first because they were so paranoid. My sister was really chill because she's younger. She was like, yeah, I know what that is. That's all right.
Yeah.
Or the sexuality thing, I felt really ashamed and shameful. So that was not great because it wasn't supposed to happen. I was just like suddenly out. I outed myself. But then the trans coming out, I think it just felt normal, I guess. I mean, I never felt bad about it coming out in that way because it's just like when I realized that I might be trans feminine in some way, I just like told my friends and it felt weird like to get used to new pronouns and like a new name. Like there was a time when I thought, no, this doesn't work. And let's just go back to the original thing because this feels so weird. I don't know. So I was like, well, stop doing that. Now just use the old pronouns and my old name. And then I was like, no, actually this feels weird. So
Mm.
let's go back. Circle
Yeah.
back to the trans feminine pronouns and name. And then I just liked them. And yeah, so it felt good, definitely. But it was like a little bit of a, not quite a roller coaster, but like a process.
Mm.
I feel like it's so far away. I'm just like, I don't really care. But I'm just like happy that the original blackout drunk thing happened because I wouldn't want to be suppressed still today. That would be really
Mm.
bad. I don't know, maybe I would have at some point, come to terms with who I am and told people in my own time. But I'm not so sure. Like, I was really suppressing it. So it was really good
Mm.
that it came out. Don't drink though, kids. And the other thing is just like, it's had to happen. Like, I felt these feelings about gender expression needed to be felt finally and expressed even more finally. Yeah, I think I feel like that. Uh, Get blackout drunk. No, don't do that. It's way harder being in the closet than not, even though it might feel like it might be harder. There are gonna be people who might be homophobic or transphobic or whatever in your life, and you might be close to these people now, and that might suck. I can't really comment on that because nobody who was really close to me was, but I was really worried that they might be.
Mm.
Because I was in a friend group of cis, straight, white men, and I was just like felt like they would probably be really uncomfortable.
Mm.
They thought that was cool that I was bi. Most of them were just like, that's really cool. It's hard, but it's harder to be in the closet because you're never gonna be able to express yourself for who you are unless you're open and honest to yourself and people around you about who you are. And also just like relationships, how are you gonna, I mean, it's gonna be a mess because eventually, if you want to be happy in your life, you will come out, and that might be a mess for all of your relationships that you've built instead of just building relationship from the person you are. Deep inside, love yourself before you love anybody else. Just like it helps me with everything. It's just a nice way to express myself and to vent my frustrations into the instrument or my voice or the computer, whichever thing I'm using for the art. It's just a release. I don't know where I would be without having music. I think I would be a mess without this way of releasing all of my feelings. I mean, there are like music that I listen to that just, it gets me, you know, by like trans artists in like, you know, like Sophie and Arca. It just feels like what it feels like being trans, you know, so many feminine and masculine things just like being really aggressively together in a fight. And that's what their music feels like. And I feel like that is just therapeutic to listen to. It's just like, yes, this feels nice. I'm like trying to make something that doesn't really like have the exact same kind of thing, but like, yeah, that's really inspiring. When I write music about my identity, it feels like I want to have this clashing of the feminine and the masculine in some sort of fight, because that makes me feel good. Don't drink though, kids.
No drinking and coming out.
Yeah, drinking coming out.